Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Preference. We are glad you made it. There has been a lot of conversation and talk out there regarding quote unquote Project 2025. And here's the thing, we need to understand from the veteran perspective and veteran sphere stuff, how is this going to impact, or how could it impact, or what kind of things are there going to be as far as, I guess, the collateral aspects of something like Project 25 to the VA specifically. I did find an article here that says that it's nonpartisan and just kind of giving us the nuts and bolts of it. We'll see how much that's true. And look, politics out of this, but it is VA and it's very politics. I mean, look, here's the thing, guys. Every benefit that we have, enjoy, apply for, get, all came from some politician somewhere starting up some sort of an act or a bill or whatever and pushing it through and getting it, approved on the House. Then it's got to get approved on the Senate. Then it's got to go to the president. So everything that we enjoy is very political. So it's hard to keep politics out of the conversation when it comes to this stuff, especially in an election year. So we're here on the doorsteps talking about this stuff in an election year. Project 2025, this article we found was on Fulcrum, the Fulcrum, and I'm just going to kind of dive into it, and then we'll get into, they have 4 key proposals. So those watching, bear with us at the front as we kind of build the stage here, and then we'll jump into the 4 key proposals in Project 2025 that directly will be impacting VA. Is it good? Is it bad? I don't know. Let's find out. So with that, guys, I'm going to just jump into it, kind of read a little bit of this, get us going, and then we'll kind of kick it around. So thank you so much for listening. I guess I appreciate you guys. All right. So the healthcare of veterans is a matter of that transcends partisanship and is part of the United States' solemn promise to the men and women who have served in its military. The Department of Veterans Affairs is responsible for administering not only the Veterans Health Administration, but also a wide range of benefits for veterans, including disability compensation, pension programs, education, home loan guarantees, life insurance, burial and memorial benefits, survivor benefits, employment services, and caregiver support. I am so happy that they outlined it that as deep as they did. Most places don't, and it leaves us just thinking that it's healthcare and that's about it, right? Healthcare and compensation. So public polling consistently shows that Americans support enhanced benefits for veterans, specifically affordable housing, free college, free healthcare, more so than for the general population. And in a 2024 RAND Corporation study, confirmed past polling reflected broad bipartisan support for veteran-specific programs, with most Americans willing to pay higher taxes to fund these initiatives. What are your guys' thoughts on that so far?
Well, I like what you said at the beginning of this. We here on this channel, we try to stay apolitical. We try not to let our political views muddy the waters too much, because everybody's got a political opinion and we all think we're right. And so it does us no good for the mission of this channel to evangelize our own personal political beliefs, because everybody thinks that they're right. They have an opinion, and that's fine. But you're right about the fact that all of these initiatives are inherently political, because they have to go through a political process just to have life breathed into them through the legislature and then enacted by the executive branch through signature. So there's definitely a strong kernel of truth to that. And as you were reading through this, I do understand where the article is coming from and teeing it up. They say, and I'll read the quote back here: public polling consistently shows that Americans support enhanced benefits for veterans, specifically affordable housing and so forth. I think the message of this channel has been fairly consistently aligned with that. I'd take it a step further. Here at our channel, we really advocate for the enhanced delivery of veterans benefits. So I'm glad things are expanding. I'm glad this article is going to dive into some good stuff, but ground level, if we're not connecting the benefit with the veteran, which is what this whole channel tries to do, and this is why we're on here every day talking about this stuff, what's the point of the benefit, right? You could enhance things all you want. It could be $1 million bill. Just kidding, but I'm being a little facetious here, but it could be $1 million bill. But if it's not delivered to the veteran, what good is it? It's a piece of paper with some ink on it. So that's my initial take. Chris, your turn.
On Jason's opening, I'm just a bill. I am only a bill, and I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill. Yeah, I had to go there, a little Schoolhouse Rock. But it's amazing how many things either get debated or get messed up completely with the right intentions in mind. And so the fact that we haven't lost the confidence in the public, who would continue to throw out more tax dollars if we knew that it was going to the benefits and for the veterans, and that they were actually moving the needle. And I think we're going to have to make sure that whatever happens after this, and if we were making a claim as of today, it does look like the Republicans would be getting some traction in the election was held today, they would be winning. So that's why we're spending a little bit more time on Project 2025, which in one way or another could be influencing at least what gets taken up for the VA. I mean, it was clear that both parties had said that they are doing stuff for the VA, and I think that both parties have done stuff for the VA. Whether it's really had the impact, you have some people that say things were better at this VA location prior to, looking for public VA partnerships to get better access for people. And then, other side with the PACT Act and other things, obviously, are going to have impact on people's lives. And so as we weave through the turbulent waters of politics, we just need to make sure that we're staying abreast of things so we could use our voices to make sure that we're trying to get the best impact possible. So educating each other and keeping each other in the loop is something that is going to be really, really important, because it's only going to get more turbulent from here for the next 7 months.
Absolutely. And you know what? Hey, here's the thing. Again, that there's a lot of voices out there that are vying for money, vying for different agendas, whatever it is. And quite frankly, the veteran voice is not always the loudest, right? We need to do a better job at voicing our wants and desires and needs. After all, the VA serves us as the veteran community. And, the more that we speak to our elected officials about what we need to see, the better. So let's move on in this real quick. It says both the Democrat and Republican parties also generally demonstrate strong support for veterans and their benefits. That seems fair. However, both parties still debate specific policy implementation and budget allocation. Sure. The Republican Party has expressed a preference for moving to a public-private partnership to administer many veteran benefits, while most of the Democratic Party favors investing in public infrastructure to meet VA mandates. So it's not surprising that proposed changes to the VA included in Project 2025, a conservative blueprint for a second Trump administration, focus largely on privatization. From a nonpartisan perspective, the stated aims of Project 2025 proposed reforms are worthy goals to enhance the efficiency, responsiveness, and veteran-centric focus of the VA by addressing healthcare delivery, benefits administration, infrastructure, and workforce management. But would these reforms achieve their intended goals? And look, when it comes, I want to get your guys' thoughts. That last piece there, look, will it achieve the intended goals? We see this constantly with government, with different things that they're throwing out. And, the good idea fairy comes and lands, and, we'll see what happens. So love to get your thoughts, Randy.
Yeah. as you were reading through this, I was thinking back in time here, and the 4 points that we're going to go through here in a minute are going to hit on this. But a lot of this stems from the VA scandal of 2024. We are 10 years later or so, and we are still trying to fix some of the problems that came from that or were identified in that. So one of the things you mentioned was this sort of either, hey, we go to this public-private partnership piece, or we want to build out public infrastructure. On some of this, guys, we're going to have to come down on one side of the political spectrum or other. Given the immediacy of the problem, I don't see how you get away from expanding public-private partnerships within the VA health, kind of arena. There's just no way to build out a public infrastructure that's going to service all of these needs in a timely fashion. And look at what we do with TRICARE. I mean, how many times did you guys, while you're on active duty, get a TRICARE referral to go out in town and get something taken care of? I mean, so I don't think we should approach it with a apprehensive lens. It's something that can provide immediacy. And again, I'm just there's a bunch of this stuff out there, but I'm just getting to the VA health piece because I've got my opinions about that. Going back to the scandal of 2025, I mean, it's still a kind of a horror show in a lot of
2014. You said 2024 and 2025, but you mean 2014.
I won't even edit that one out, guys. You can just see my brain being all slogged down here. But yeah, 2024, that was one of the greatest political spin jobs I have ever seen, where we had a nationwide crisis within the Department of Veterans Affairs, and absolutely none of it floated up to the commander in chief. I mean, it was talk about Teflon stuff. I mean, but anyway, a little political there. I'll leave it at that. Over to you, Chris. I'll be quiet.
Yeah, look, well, I don't know where to go with that, other than it's always important to make sure that we're keeping a level-headed perspective on this, because even back in 2014, if you remember, it was really centered around the Phoenix facility, and they dug and they found some things. And with any organization, you're going to find things. They pulled this big effort together, and then they switched offices, and then Trump came in, and there's, even with well-intended things, the transition from one office to the other can either be accelerated, and usually what happens is that means that people are coming in, they have an idea or a vision, they put all of their people in place to get to that vision and that idea faster, and that causes churn. And there are good people in the VA system today, some even that were appointed by the Biden administration, that would be great to keep on. And so I just hope that we pull back, and as we say in the corporate world, let's get centered around the problems of the customer first, and not the problems, the political issues or the organizational issues or which administration people came in. But we know that there's going to be some of that, and I just hope that we could put once and for all the veterans at the top of the pyramid, and let's work to create a new vision of what the VA can be, with the veterans and their healthcare being center.
Yeah, Chris, well said. I totally agree that that the VA needs to function as a business in the sense of customer service, timely delivery of whatever they're delivering, right? Whether it's you're filing for a claim or you're getting healthcare, a good customer experience, quality healthcare, all of those things are musts. We can't pretend that the VA just has a monopoly on us, and it doesn't matter if you're low scores somewhere, you just got to suck it up and come to us, right? We need to have good service. And so I agree that that the mindset of having kind of that corporate hat on and centered around the needs of the veterans is a very important aspect. With that, let's jump into the key proposals in Project 2025 as it relates to the VA. Now, there's 4 of them. Let's jump into the first one. They're fairly short. It's just a small paragraph on each. Obviously, there's documentation out there that has a much deeper dive into this stuff. Feel free to look at it. We'd love to see your comments into this into this post as well. So the first one, political and operational changes, is the title. One notable political proposal would extend the term of the Undersecretary for Health to ensure continuity and protect the position from political changes by the next administration, which is to your point, Chris, where you're saying, hey, look, just because somebody appointed this person, let's let them continue to do great things, right? So additionally, the plan calls for the dismissal of Biden administration appointees on day one to establish political control over the VA. So it's kind of this twofold thing. One, it's saying let's extend the term of the Undersecretary for Health to ensure the continuity and protect the position from political changes by the next administration. But we want to dismiss all appointees and then start from scratch, which I'm not quite sure how to read into that, other than seeming as though it's a little bit of this in that paragraph. So, Chris, your thoughts, and we'll bounce over to Randy.
Yeah, look, I mean, in the business world, when you get acquired or, you have a PE firm that comes in, they generally have an idea for a business strategy, and you're a piece of that strategy, and they got to come in and take over, and they do things that are aligned to the acceleration of getting the outcomes on that business strategy. So this sounds very similar. It sounds like they have a very, a picture in mind. And I think that picture is leveraging more, public partnership, more doctors that are non-VA doctors. Now, look, having had loved ones recently go through some pretty traumatic health scares, and going from corporate insurance to not corporate insurance, I can tell you that unless the VA or the veterans have some sort of priority, you may not be cutting down wait times. You may not be cutting because there's just not enough doctors. And then you have more people who are leveraging healthcare than ever before because of some of the programs, Obamacare and other things, which is a great thing. But the strain on the system is actually really, really, at least where I live in California, it's really hard to find specialists. It's really hard to find doctors who aren't, who are actually taking new patients. And it's really hard to find, folks that other than urgent care where you can go in and get, some rapid. So I just hope that as whoever comes in and whatever happens, we think about the impact in totality as opposed to just looking at I got a strategy and we know the strategy is going to work and we're going to implement everything. And then all of a sudden it doesn't work because they're not looking at some of these other, inputs to the entire situation.
Yeah. Hey, look, just stepping back to this bullet itself, I understand why they'd want to extend the term of the Undersecretary of Health. It kind of takes them outside of the political realm, and just makes them sort of a continuity. So in a way, the judicial branch already does that. I mean, that was kind of the whole purpose for some of these longer indefinite terms for the judicial branch, was to get them outside of the politics of everything and just let them focus on justice and the law, and a similar mindset could be adopted by this. I don't understand kind of this whole plan to get rid of the entire administration appointees on day one, particularly if this is, an attempt to be a bipartisan effort. That's not going to go over well for about half of the people that are involved. But I'll leave that to the derivation of the watchers. You guys can let me know what you think about that. Back over to you, Jason.
All right. So let's move on to the second key proposal here in Project 2025, and that is healthcare proposals. All right. So healthcare proposals, these are particularly controversial. The plan recommends eliminating services deemed contrary to conservative principles, such as abortion and gender reassignment surgeries, and emphasizes adjusting services to meet the needs of an aging veteran population, transitioning from Vietnam era to post 9/11 veterans. It also proposes codifying the 2018 VA Mission Act standards to ensure veterans have access to private sector care, potentially expanding privatized outpatient clinics and telehealth. All right, Randy, let's kick it back to you.
Well, I'm going to just barely dip my toe in this, and I have a question here. I don't necessarily have an answer, but is the VA experiencing a very large influx of Vietnam era and post 9/11 era veterans seeking abortions? That would be my first question. The answer is probably no, because these people have more gray hair than I do. The other question I have is, are there really that many of this target group of veterans, Vietnam era and post 9/11, that are going into the VA seeking gender reassignment? My guess is that's probably an infrequent request at the front desk there at the VA when somebody comes toddling in from the parking lot. So I'm not sure why this is such an area of focus. Maybe it's just the political beliefs of the sponsors here, but it seems like if that's one of the four component areas, we may be missing the mark a little bit, because I can think of a lot of other problems with the VA that don't have a nexus with Vietnam era people getting a gender transition. But that's just me. I'll stop. Over to you, Chris.
Yeah, look, this is a hot button, right? And not that we're afraid to touch a hot button, but so much of this would depend upon your own political views and your own cultural values. That if you think about what happened with Roe v. Wade, it's getting pushed back to the states. States have the authority, but the VA is a federally funded function. So there's going to be all kind of legal issues associated with this. It's going to be a legal hot button too. But I side with Randy. Is like, let's use the data. The reality is, if they are pushing more stuff into public sector, to the TRICARE type of scenario, they're going to be working with doctors who have no real affiliation with the military other than sending the bills to the VA. Now, it's not to say that some of them aren't veterans or loved ones of veterans, whatever, but the reality is that they have a practice, and whether it's covered or not, that's going to be what drives people either to them or not to them. And so the states will weigh in on it. They just carved out, I think it was a case in Idaho. They just carved out a little exception. Supreme Court did. And that's, I'm sure, going to get pushed back. And so, and that's on the abortion one. You could, some of the transgender surgeries and things like that are going to be just as big a hot topics. In the end, I care about the veterans getting the health care they need. Things that are associated to their mental health would certainly be covered under here. It's probably a bigger issue for, active duty or reserve or guard in that 18 to 27 population. They think about the aftermath of some of the post-surgical issues that could come up that could derail the training up tempo, right? And the readiness factor. And so this is going to be one that's going to be really, really complicated for the military in general. It'll be interesting to see if picking a fight with the VA is going to be a place where they're going to stand their ground truly or not.
Right. Yeah. You know what, Chris, and you brought up a good point with the Roe v. Wade stuff, and it's kicked back to the states. It would be hard to justify from a federal perspective if you're paying for somebody to get an abortion with federal funds. It's just going to be a very, very difficult, I think, process in that. So I think that that's part of it. I think that from a political landscape, you're going to want to say that it's eliminating that, but really it's already eliminated because of that in a way through the Supreme Court. So it's you're at that point you're asking the federal government to still pay for an abortion of which it's not federally legal anymore. So back to the states with that. Now the other stuff, back to Randy's point, I mean, it's going to be a numbers thing. And I think that we can all agree politics aside, that the VA's ability to meet the needs of all the veterans is not 100%, right? There's shortfalls all over the place. And when it comes to budget and all of that, there's got to be some focus on where you're spending your money. You can't just, do this big scatter shot and just try to do everything. The fact is that, yes, we do have an aging population, and quite rapidly. There are many benefits out there that veterans are able to utilize, as far as things like, hospice type care or convalescent type care, memory care, skilled nursing care. All these things come with huge price tags, and it's not going to slow down anytime soon. The one thing that
really quick on that point, though,
yeah.
I wonder why the emphasis on bringing this controversial topic of getting away from the abortion thing and getting away from gender reassignment. If the focus is on Vietnam era veterans in this aging population, how many Vietnam era veterans are having abortions right now?
Yeah, zero.
Zero? Maybe zero? none.
Yeah.
So why pull in a thread that's gonna piss off half of America and probably
right
by the other half? Why
and you bring up a good point, Randy, because like Chris brought up, look, it's not even, you're probably not even allowed to pay for it with federal funds for like an abortion. So it should be a moot point. It should just not even be talked about. But hey, do politicians lie? Especially when they're up for re-election or election. It doesn't even matter if it's a re-election or an election. If you're running, look, I don't care what side you're on. You're going to bend the truth. You're going to break the truth. You're going to, say something this way, that way. You're going to bring up things, make it sound like it could happen, but really it can't. And I'm going to come in. I'm going to change the world. I'm going to make you all these promises. So welcome to, political America, right? That's why it's in here, because people are going to use it as talking points, and nobody's going to look any further than, wow, they're taking away that from veterans. And it's like, no, that's already gone, and it was the Supreme Court, and that part's not going to happen. The Mission Act, though, which is also in this paragraph, not paragraphed. That sounds like a skin graft. Anyway, so the Mission Act. The Mission Act was a great act, and one of the key things in there, it really built on what Obama put in place. So Obama brought in the choice, which was allowing veterans to seek out private care, right? If the VA can't meet my needs, I can go get community care. And it was kind of loose. The Mission Act really buttoned it up and made the guidelines a little more advantageous for the veteran. But it took that and made it bigger, badder, better, right? So, and that's the viewpoint that we want with all this stuff, right? Is we don't want people to come in and just dismantle. We want people to come in and help make the snowman, right? Not kick it down and build a new one. Help make it bigger, badder, better. So the Mission Act, anyway, built on that Obama one. So Trump came in, did the Mission Act, and dialed down the timelines and the miles driven and all that stuff, the requirements to be able to go on and get community care. Now, I personally have not utilized community care anytime recently. I have heard and seen and read of veterans who are complaining about they took away my community care. Specifically, and this is the part that drives me nuts, for mental health care. I've been seeing this provider for the last 2 years. I see them once a week. Now I'm told I can't go to community care for my mental health. I got to go to the VA. I try to make an appointment. They kick me around. It's going to be 3 months or whatever it is, right? And I had a great relationship. I'm pissed off. I really wish that I still had that opportunity. Now, the VA says, well, it's because now we have the bandwidth, or now we have a new clinic or whatever in place within so many miles of you. So now you no longer have a choice. You actually have to come to the VA for your care. We're not going to pay for your outside care. Personally, I think that's a horrible policy, especially when it comes to mental health or some sort of real specialty need. But that what they're looking to do here is to, like I said, in the paragraph, they're talking about proposes codifying the 2018 VA Mission Act standards to ensure veterans have access to the private sector care. Now, my question then is the parameters that surround that, and I'm going to butcher it because I don't really remember them all. There's some different things. It's basically, it's like, if you have to wait 20 days or more for a appointment, for a non-specialty care appointment, if you have to wait 20 days or more, you can go get community care. Or if you have to drive more than 30 miles to get that care from the VA will say, hey, look, you can go to get community care 5 minutes from your house if you want, so you don't have to drive the 30 minutes to get here. So that's to utilize community care in the Mission Act. So some of these people who are complaining that they no longer have community care, well, now you don't have to wait 20 days. We hired on 5 new people, and now you can be seen in a week. So come here. Or we have a new clinic in place. You don't have to drive 30 miles. We built a new clinic right here. It's 5 minutes from your house, but now you have to come here. So I don't know what exactly that would look like by codifying it. I would hope that there would be some sort of maybe additions to it with as far as the ability to go in or out. Again, they're throwing in there the potentially expanding privatized outpatient clinics and telehealth because of the ability to go seek community care. But again, I just told you, through the Mission Act, in order to go get community care, VA has to be 20 days or more out for general type of stuff, or the VA has to be 30 miles away from you. There's not a VA on every corner in every town. I'm sorry. So this allows the veteran to be able to go seek care faster or closer to home. Any other thoughts or chime-ins on this one, guys? No? All right. Well, let's move on to the third one here. Number three of the key proposals in Project 2025, as listed on Fulcrum, a news outlet here that we got this article. It is Veterans Benefits Administration reforms. For the VBA, the focus is on outsourcing and technology to streamline claims processing. This would be your benefits claims. The goal is to process the first disability claim within 30 days. I can't even imagine that. And reduce improper payments and fraud. There is also an emphasis on accelerating reviews of standardized disability ratings and increasing IT funding for automation and improved efficiency. Chris, your thoughts?
Well, we've kind of been batting this topic around a little bit. I mean, it just keeps politics and big systems decisions, people sitting in Washington making decisions that take really good service and really good care and throw it upside down, right? So I do agree, generally speaking, with having options. I do agree with making sure that we are providing, especially a user experience layer and a technology layer that is easy to use and easy to understand updates and know where you are. I love having goals like, 30 days to process the first disability claim. Those are all very aspirational. But when we start talking about things that are systematic and enterprise-wide, I think there are going to be a lot of people having good experiences and getting good service in parts of the VA system that could be impacted abnormally. So I guess Silicon Valley, you start with problems of N equals 1, and then you work your way up from there. And then, you're starting with small examples and you're not going all in on something, thinking it's going to, you're going to aim small and miss small. Like they say, the Patriot gave his 2 sons advice when they were going to go recapture Heath Ledger, Francis Marion's kid in that movie, The Patriot. Aim small, miss small. I just get so concerned about our government coming in and doing system-wide wholesale change and impacting and disrupting things that are actually working. Why not find out things that are working and see if you could expand those into the other areas? And so, genuinely speaking, when I hear things that are broad brushed approaches like this, I'm not very optimistic about it ever getting the outcomes that were expected. Sorry about that. I'm usually a pretty optimistic dude.
Yeah. So I think for our viewers here, they've kind of switched here. They've gone from VA health to VBA, veterans benefits. So, it's important for our viewers to take a step back and realize that within the VA, there is different departments and they do different things. And they're now talking to the veterans benefits part of the VA. I think most people who read this are going to say, hey, the goal is to process the first disability claim within 30 days to reduce improper payment and fraud. What could go wrong with that? I kind of am aligned with Chris on this one. First, what does it mean to process the first disability claim within 30 days? I mean, it's not an event, it is a process. So I guess getting to it within 30 days is what they're saying here, as opposed to making a determination. That I could probably get behind. The thing that I get concerned with when you start compressing timelines, particularly when resources aren't in place, is the sword cuts both ways. We want veterans to receive timely, accurate, disability reviews. We want this decision to be made in a way that maximizes the veterans' benefits within the confines of regulation and the law. But if you speed things along too much, things can get overlooked. It's much easier to say no than it is yes in the government. Much easier. And so if you push a timeline that's unreasonable, people start saying, not enough there, no, not enough there, no. They don't really take the time to fully review the file. That could be very problematic and reduce benefits down the road. So we've talked about it on this channel. Jason's done a fantastic job on his other channel with this stuff, but a better solution and a solution that's in place right now is BDD. Benefits delivery at discharge. You front load the time before you get out of service, let them go through this whole rigmarole. It's not on a compressed timeline and you get it on day one. So it's really kind of a similar net effect, and we're doing that now. So for all of you folks watching out there that are still wearing the uniform, check out benefits delivery at discharge, because I think that is a better answer than mandating a shorter window, in my opinion. Jason, I see you nodding your head there, so I'll throw it back to you.
I agree. So you're talking about the first disability claim. Most people don't file their first claim while they're in, or at least back when we were all active duty, for sure. So I think that education of those currently in, getting ready to discharge, and practically mandating that they at least meet with a veteran service officer or something like that to ensure that they have the information necessary to decide whether or not they need to file a claim is essential while they're still on active duty, would be the ideal situation, right? The 30-day time frame, on its face, it sounds like amazing, but you're right. When you start holding employees accountable to that, well, what happens if you don't do it in 30 days? Okay, well, now you're written up. Okay, well, then I can make a decision in 30 days, and the decision you're not going to get in trouble for is a denial, right? So that's going to be your path of least resistance to accommodate that 30-day window. I think that's a bad idea. But having it timely and proper, we can't force people to file claims when they're getting out of the military. We can't force people to file claims at any time. So if it takes a veteran 3 years, 7 years, 20 years to file a claim, and it's their first claim, it would be nice to know that it's going to be handled quickly. Now, the VA has been fraught with IT issues. They've spent billions of dollars with Oracle to roll out this huge enterprise system that continually fails. And to Chris's point, they'll try it out at one regional office, or they'll try it out at one hospital and try to get it going. And then they'll push it out to a couple more, and then it fails. And then, so they're not trying to roll it out, they're taking a bite at a time. But there has been calls to, if this doesn't fix itself shortly, after tons of money spent on this stuff, on the congressional side, people are talking about, look, if it doesn't get fixed soon, we should just pull the plug, walk away, and start over with another company because it's just that bad. So on the benefit side, the VA benefits administration side, we saw a failure of bandwidth when it came to all of the online intent to files at the announcement of the PACT Act toward the first initial deadline that you had to file your intent to file by a certain time frame to get additional back pay. And the VA couldn't handle it. Their systems couldn't handle it. And many veterans did not get their intent to file in place. The VA did extend that timeline, and people did get their intent to files in eventually, but I'm still sure that there's plenty of people who thought they did, and it just didn't. So IT issues have been an issue, and there needs to be a focus on that in today's world. I mean, IT is everything. So now let's move on to the fourth one here. The fourth key proposal in Project 2025, and I'm curious to see what Chris says on this one. So the Office of Human Resources and Administration reforms. All right, so that the Human Resources and Administration reforms is going to be, it's the HRA, okay, HRA. The HRA reforms include rescinding Biden administration delegations of authority, reevaluating hybrid and remote work policies. That one's very curious to me. Expediting a new HR IT system and enhancing recruitment of veterans and military spouses. Additionally, the plan suggests sunsetting the Office of Accountability and Whistleblower Protection and decoupling HRA from the Office of Security and Preparedness to streamline operations. Chris, what are your thoughts on this, especially with your background? I'd love to. Obviously, you're getting a small snippet, so I mean, I'm not expecting the whole heck of a lot, but just on its kind of face, just kind of, how do you feel with this?
Yeah, look, I think that I applaud part of it, and I have concerns on the rest of it. The parts that I applaud are, the recruitment of veterans and military spouses. The part that, is hard to believe that, maybe this is all part of the whole Oracle debacle. It's hard to believe that they don't have an HRIT system that is fully functioning right now. If not, then just fix it. You gotta have that as a foundation, unless you're just wasting so many hours of work and frustration and engagement to actually, for the people who are trying to help the veterans, that you just need to fix it. For the other side, I mean, decoupling from the Office of Security and Preparedness seems commonsensical. What I don't understand is why. What were the first principles of coupling them in the first place? But not really knowing a whole lot about the inner workings of the HRA and these delegations of authority. It just seems like many times they make things more complex in an attempt to try to make things simple. And an honest review of all of this stuff, an honest, look at, or is recruiting better, is employee engagement, and most important, employee productivity better when you have at least flexible hybrid work situations. But the reality is that they should look for the best talent available to them within reasonable parameters as all other companies, and because work can be done from home. Now, maybe that's why they coupled this whole security. Maybe they're worried about, network security and data security. And so maybe because of the amount of information they have and the type of information, it makes sense to do work out of a controlled space. So again, it comes back to first principles and back to what they're trying to solve for, and then all of the strategic decisions on how you organize and how you separate work and whether you allow people to work from home or not should come after the strategy is in place. That was a whole lot of HR gobbledygook, wasn't it?
That's beautiful gobbledygook. I love it. Beautiful, beautiful. Hey, I can understand it. If they're on the, benefit side or on the veterans health side or something like that, and they're working with HIPAA sensitive records and they've got it at home, that can be problematic. So if they're reevaluating the, hybrid versus remote work policies because they're genuinely concerned about data and information technology security, seems reasonable to me. If they're doing it because, they want to force people back in the office because they think that's going to make things better and more productive, I think they've been smoking something, because that is not what the data that I've seen shows. When you just unilaterally mandate, hey, you got to come back and things will be better. That's I have not seen anything that supports that from a productivity perspective, where it's binary, mandated. Do this or get out kind of thing. The piece about expediting a new HRIT system, I have to go back to my old CFO days. I remember the enticement of wanting to upgrade our financial systems, and if we do this, we're going to have, everything's going to be easier and better. And we go through these. I went through several of them in my career. These full-blown ERP upgrades, and the promised land is always very, very far away with data. Once you upgrade a system, it always takes longer. There is always more data loss. It is always more of a learning curve than you expect, and it takes longer. And then what happens is consultants show up, and consultants like to bill a lot of money, and they show up and they've got great ideas and they try to fix things that lead to more problems, and then they show up even more. And so I'm a little skeptical of this, because I've seen this movie before with systems upgrades. Yeah, systems eventually need to be upgraded, but pick one and just upgrade with it as it releases new versions. So hopefully they think through that. I like the fact that they're, proposing to recruit more military members and spouses. Great. I think that that's a reasonable thing to do. Anytime you get rid of getting rid of a whistleblower at, protection sort of place, is that really a good idea? If we didn't have whistleblower protections in place, would the whole scandal of 2014 that, the administration at the time tried very, very hard to minimize, mitigate, make go away, not end up in the headlines, would that have ever ended up in the headlines if we didn't have whistleblower protections? These people probably would have been fired and run out of the country. So I'm a little bit apprehensive about that. And I don't know why they're coupled up with the Office of Security and Preparedness. Maybe it is, a data security thing. I don't really have an opinion on that, but I think there's some good and bad in there.
Yeah, I agree. One of the things that, really kind of piqued my interest was the reevaluating the hybrid and remote work, right? And it's just to your guys' points. I'm a big fan of hybrid. Remote work, okay, but I think that you do have to be in the office personally sometimes, just to have that, who your coworkers are, the people that you rely on and talk to, and to build that kind of, a loose camaraderie almost. I think the face-to-face aspect is important, and I think that some people, they'll just never leave their house, man. There's people out there that just, they live in a virtual world just all day long, and then they do virtual things in their free time, and then they just order DoorDash and hang out at home. And it's good to get out of the house every once in a while, Chris.
Yeah,
come on, Chris.
It is. But think about all the customer call centers that the VA has. Are you going to bring all of them in house? That's just as much of a risk in terms of information access than somebody sitting in a human resources office.
Well,
right?
I'll tell you this. Here's my thing on this, and it depends on the department, the job, the unit. Okay. There's cross learning that happens when you hear other people deal with situations, and you also have somebody that you could reach out to and touch in real time and be like, hey, how should I handle this? Or how did you get across that? And you lose that when you're sitting at home behind a computer, I think. So,
yeah, I'll
anyway.
tell you, Chris and I were talking about this for a minute before we started streaming. We were talking about hiring, and I tend to lean on the virtual side of things because we can hire talent from anywhere in the United States, or really anywhere in the world, but anywhere in the US at least. and we don't have to uproot them. We don't have to move them. We can, take our cream of the crop. And as long as they can handle working in a virtual environment, to your point, Jason, some people, benefit from in person a little bit more, but if they can handle it, the nice thing is they can be anywhere, and, they don't have to alter their lives. And the whole purpose of work is so we can enjoy what we do outside of work and not live in the matrix, like the example that you just threw out there.
There's pros and cons, I guess, at the end of the day, right? And whatever. Maybe there are those options, but I'm not saying have somebody come into the offices at 4 states away or something like that, But then again, you have to have the office space. You have to provide all that. There's a cost savings if you have everybody working from home, which was a big deal back in COVID. You started realizing, wow, well, if I have them just stay at home, then we could close down 3/4 of our buildings and actually
unfortunately,
generate
the feds
income.
already own all those buildings.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true. We could turn off all the lights and the AC systems. Oh, no. All right. So, all right. So let's move on here and get to concerns and considerations as written by Fulcrum, and see what they say. Bear with me, guys. I'm going to try to just read through it as fast as I can, and then just get some thoughts from each of us, and then we'll move on. How's that sound? Good?
Yeah, maybe hit the highlights. We're about at time anyway, so
yeah.
Highlights and
I don't know the highlights. I got to find them. So anyway, we'll just go through it fast. All right, concerns and considerations. One of the primary goals of Project 2025 VA reforms is to outsource many core healthcare services to private companies. This includes outsourcing exams for evaluating claims, adjudicating claims automatically with private tech companies, and facilitating care through private healthcare providers. While some conservative groups like the Concerned Veterans for America support expanding veteran access to private care and cite polling that indicates wide support for the plan, this polling seems to directly contradict years of surveys of veterans who use VHA, the Veterans Healthcare Administration. For the quarter ending March 2024, 80.4% of veterans expressed trust in the VA, with 91.8% specifically trusting VA health services. Why the disconnect? Here's my question, guys. Okay, I know you guys love surveys like I do. If you surveyed everybody who went to the VA healthcare facility in the last 30 days and said, do you trust the healthcare facility, whatever your questions are, you're going to get a lot more yeses. It's great, because they're actually going there. How about if you polled every disabled veteran, regardless of if they went to the VHA or not, right? So everybody who could qualify for veterans health care services, what would the numbers look like then? So I don't know. I mean, what are your guys' thoughts real quick on that world of surveys and throwing that out there?
Randy doesn't trust him. Randy doesn't believe in him. That's Randy's thought.
Good.
Chris likes how Randy talks in the third person, but
nice.
Yeah, if constructed properly, I mean, it's a science, but again, these things it's just like a employee engagement survey. You just hope you catch your employees on the right day, not the day that they're at the peak, not the day that they're at the low, but the right day where they can look at things contextually and have an honest opinion of how things stand. If they tried to get an appointment over the last 30 days and couldn't or something,
Nice.
that bad experience happened, yes, it's a bad experience on that one experience, but they might have really great experiences in totality, but their answer is going to be strictly influenced by the most recent experience. And so I think it's an input, but there should be lots of other inputs, lots of other metrics being considered, like the ones we talked about earlier today. And, how many people are actually looking for these services for us to even make it that big of a deal, to make sure that we aren't compromising resources that should be focused on more, important to the veterans right now types of issues. And so I I get managing at scale is very difficult, and managing at scale with all the political influences that the VA has is even more difficult. But I just wish and hope that, logic and reason can come into play when this transition happens.
Yep, absolutely. So let's move on through the end of this article and we'll wrap it up. So without a doubt, there are veterans who have negative experiences with their VA administered care. And those veterans need to be heard and have their concerns addressed. However, privately administered health care in the U.S. is already overburdened, and it doesn't seem logical to move veterans into the private system, risking the real net positive results most veterans experience through the VHA. A recent audit by the VA Office of Inspector General concurred and highlighted concerns that increased spending on community care could erode the VA direct care system and limit choice for veterans who prefer VA services. It warned that deviating or diverting funds from the VA to private care could reduce the quality of direct care. Look, the bottom line is if you don't use it, you're going to lose it, right? So if you open up the ability to go outside of the VA, and everybody does, well, then there's no need for the VA, right? So we can't have our cake and eat it too. So this is a really interesting situation that we're kind of finding ourselves in right now. There's 2 little paragraphs left. I'll wrap these up and then pass it around. So to be clear, this is on the Fulcrum article here. And moving on in this article, it states, to be clear, under the Biden administration, the VA has continued the trend of privatization that began under Obama, grew and was codified by the Mission Act in 2018 under Trump. The Project 2025 report on the VA hints at this when offering rare praise that the Biden appointees have adopted some of their predecessors' governance processes. Ensuring that changes truly benefit veterans should be the priority for the current administration as well as future administrations looking to improve the VA, which is echoing the words that we've said here. Project 2025 focuses on conservative political goals and extensive outsourcing, risking politicizing the VA further and undermining its ability to serve veterans efficiently or effectively. I'm making up words. Given the high trust and satisfaction among veterans with current VA services, nonpartisan support for veteran-centric benefits, and research indicating the importance of retaining the private model of care, it is crucial to approach these reforms cautiously. And that's how it ends. So let's pass the baton around. Randy, let's go with you first. Give us your thoughts on the conclusion here.
Good article. Appreciate information. Anytime we get new information out there, we want to share it with our viewers. So I think it's a good article. Look, we did a long episode today. We covered a lot of ground. I don't really have anything to add. Yeah, if there's a political current behind something, approaching it cautiously and with the veteran and veteran's family in mind, it is the right way to handle it. That's all I got. Over to you, Chris.
Yeah, look, I just get concerned about, student body left, student body right, student body left, student body right. When so much of it can, progress can be made by just understanding how to stay steady and in the middle. And so hopefully there isn't a ton of back and forth. This was very helpful because honestly, I haven't spent a whole lot of time, although you hear it in the media all the time, Project 2025, Project 2025. I mean, it's hard to believe anything that the media actually throws at you anymore in terms of relative value. So having a chance to talk some of this stuff out and learn a little bit more about it inspires me to go learn even more about it, especially on how it's going to impact the veterans and the folks that we serve. So there's probably a lot more to come in future episodes. And then if there's specific things that you've learned about it, go ahead and send it in the comments, and maybe it's something we could pick up and go deeper on.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris. And again, this was from the Fulcrum by Christina Becvar, I think is how you say her last name. It just came out July 5th. and we wanted to share it with you here today. So thank you guys so much for watching. We appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great one. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.